And like people say to me, like, does Ara pay you to say this stuff? Are you people actually think I own part of ServiceTitan. I'm like, no, I don't get paid anything, no. Welcome to the Roofing CEO Playbook podcast. Build it to sell it. We're here to cut through the noise, all the rhetoric, to show you how to build your roofing business, make it profitable, where you make a boat ton of money, and the cherry on top, when you're ready to sell, you can sell to a private equity firm and change your family's life. Hey everybody, I'm sitting here with Ara, the founder and CEO of ServiceTitan, the #1 home product, CRM marketing tool for every contractor. It was first only HVAC, now they're in roofing, water treatment, garage doors, you name it. Ara built this company from scratch. I consider you a great friend at this point. I got to know you over the last 4 or 5 years. Ara, thank you so much for having me out here in California, brother.
Thank you, Lance. It's a real pleasure to be here. The feeling is very much mutual. I'm very excited to have this conversation. Thank you.
So, Ara, first of all, why don't you tell everybody who you are? Because you got a unique story. It's a pretty cool story, like what you and Vahe have been able to pull off here.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell everybody your story and who you are real fast so they know?
Sure. So, Vahe, my co-founder, he and I share very much a similar story. Both of us Armenian Americans. Both of us immigrated here when we were really young. Like most immigrants, our families came here, no money, no knowledge of the language, no jobs lined up. And coincidentally, both of our dads started in the contracting business. And then at some point, they proudly opened up their, small but proud contracting businesses. And Vahe and I grew up watching them, like many contractors, working really hard to put food on the table and give us a bright future. And there's all kinds of stories we can talk about that I recall from my childhood. But my parents were in contracting, and today we build software for contractors, so it's come full circle. But
what made you and Vahe say that? Because we talked before, now it's more than you just decided. You got tired of seeing your dads and they would have no systems or be able to look at things and scale it, and you were like, oh, there has to be an easier way. Can you talk about that?
Yeah.
Because this is, what you did is you revolutionized the contracting space.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember very little about my childhood, but there are some things that I don't think will ever leave me. One of the things I remember is when I was really young, we lived in this small apartment. Me, my brother, and my sister all shared a room. I would sleep on the top bunk, and every morning around 5 o'clock, I'd get woken up because my dad was waking up to get ready for work, and my eyes would barely open, and I'd see my dad getting dressed, heading out to work, and then I'd see him come home at like 7, 8 at night. He'd spend 14, 15 hours laboring in the field, and then come home, take a hot shower, have dinner with the family, and then after that, he had to quote unquote, manage the back office, but do it from the dinner table. And so, still prepare the schedule for the next day or figure out, pay for his team and all that jazz. And he did all this like most parents do, like we do for our kids, to give our kids the brightest future we could give them. And so thankfully I got the opportunity to learn computer programming, learn software development. And when it came time for Vahe and I to decide what we wanted to do, of course, like most engineers, we want to go and work for the fancy tech companies, the Googles, the Apples, the Facebooks of the world. But that summer when we came home after we graduated from college, like we saw that in the past 15 years, the world had changed and technology had transformed every business in the world, except our parents. Like our parents were still dealing with the same challenges as 10 years ago. And, we wanted to return the favor and help them and, build something to automate a lot of these manual tasks that they were doing. And so we built the incarnation of ServiceTitan. We had no idea that the market was this big. We had no idea there were this many successful contractors who run amazing businesses that could benefit from the product. But slowly but surely, other contractors found out about what we had built and they wanted to use it too. And, fast forward today, we have a real business on our hands. So it's amazing how it all happens. It's like the real American dream.
Let's talk about, we're talking a lot about ServiceTitan today. I told you I want to ask you some tough questions here. You built an incredible company. But before that, let's talk about your family. Because you are like me, your family comes first, your kids play soccer, you coach them. Can you talk about why it's so important to you that you spend time with your children. Most CEOs are not coaching their kids' soccer team, getting kids into the MLS and spending time with them and making sure their wives are good. Like, just most people just are not doing these things. Can you talk about why it's so important to you?
Yeah, it'd be really interesting. If we wanted to get to the real root of the answer, we'd have to do some psychoanalysis. I think first and foremost, this idea of family is so fundamental in the Armenian culture. Everything in the Armenian culture is built around spending time with family and helping people out, and not just your immediate family, but everyone in your community. And so I think a lot of it just has to do with my upbringing. And yeah, I think we're shaped by the experiences we had when we were really young. In my case, like the entire reason why I got into software is when I was about 7 or 8 years old, my dad, every couple weeks when he'd come home from work, he would stop by the local Barnes & Noble to buy books for me. Like, his belief was that education was going to be my gateway to success. And so he'd stop by local Barnes & Noble, and he didn't know English very well. So he would like randomly pick out books. He would randomly walk through aisles and just pick out books and bring a stack home every couple weeks. And one of those weeks he brought home a stack, and I looked at the book on top and it said, How to Teach Yourself Visual Basic in 21 Days. And I was like, what in the world is Visual Basic? And I opened it up and I started reading, and I'm like, wow, this is teaching me how to build computer programs. So then I became fascinated with software development. Of course, I got really into it, and like my childhood was software development and trying to be Michael Jordan. And those were the two things. Like, I was either playing basketball or was developing software. In high school, I quickly realized the prospects of me being Jordan were very, very low. And so I figured I'd have a better chance through software. And, that's how I turned into who I am today. And for whatever reason that family is important to me, like, it's very important to me to spend time with my kids. Obviously, work consumes the vast, vast, vast majority of my day. So it's what I can't make up for in quantity, I try and make up for in quality, which I know is the same philosophy that you have, spending all that time with your kids, coaching them in wrestling and all that jazz. So I happen to do it through soccer. And, it's fascinating how a lot of the same principles we run the business by, with the same values, the same team principles, happen to be the same principles we run the team by in soccer, and we get to see similar results on the soccer field. So it's fun as well.
Let's talk about that, because, you coach, right? Yeah. And I believe to be a good coach, you got to have a little savage in you. I believe to be a CEO, you have to have a little savage in you, right? Like, or to run a big business, like, do you believe that? Like, you have to have a little thick skin. You got to be tough. I'm not saying you can't be loving and put your arm around someone, but do you believe that you got to have lines in the sand and saying, hey, listen, this is the mission. If you're not on with the mission, you got to go. Like, can you talk about that? Do you believe that or no?
100%. And coincidentally, I believe the more loving you are of your team, both at work and on the field, the higher you can demand from the team. I think just demanding without showing appreciation is where quickly your team loses the respect for you and the loyalty to you. But when you can operate in an environment where you care deeply about the people around you and you demonstrate how much you care and how you will do anything to make them successful, it motivates them to want to do anything to make the organization successful. So we complement that, call it love, with incredibly high expectations of performance, both at work and on the soccer field.
My question to you is, what was the most challenging time here? Because look at me, you're good looking, you keep yourself in shape, you speak well. People are probably like, this guy grew up with a silver spoon. I know you didn't. I know you started out in a garage. I know how many hours. What was your most like, holy shit, are we going to make it moment, you and Bahe?
Yeah. It's always been really, really tough. And it continues to be really, really tough. I think it's just tough in a different way. Early on, it was existential. It was, as you said, it was this question of, will we even make it? And, every quote-unquote overnight success story looks like an overnight success story, but it's really like a 2-decade journey. Mm-hmm. And the same with ServiceTitan. It's not like we became, wildly successful overnight. For several years, we had no idea whether this would work at all. And especially building a product that is the MVP, the minimum viable product, is very big. It's robust, it's deep, it's wide, the footprint is very large. So it takes a lot of time to build it before you can even tell if this is going to be successful. And certainly when the software is so mission critical to our customers' businesses, right? Our customers have spent decades building their businesses, their livelihood is on the line, their legacy is on the line. This is an incredibly serious partnership that, for us is like sacrosanct, right? It's like we want to deliver success and we won't let anything get in the way. So early on, when we didn't have the reputation of having delivered success for others, it was very hard to earn the trust and partnership of a contractor. And then in many cases, because the product was more nascent, 10 years ago, even if a contractor saw the potential in our product and partnered with us, and even if it delivered exactly as it should in 80% of cases, in the 20% where it didn't do what they needed, it would cause a lot of problems in their operations. And so I remember, one of our first customers, today Router Hero, just a few miles out from here, they were one of the very first customers that took the bet on us. They had an operation at that point that was probably like $5 million a year, which 10 years ago was a very large operation.
Absolutely.
Today, of course, you guys, have built huge enterprises, but back then, $5 million was a really big deal. And he believed in us. We implemented. He went live. It worked for the most part, but most part wasn't good enough. Even that 10% that didn't work, caused a lot of problems in his operations. And so Vahe and I would wake up every morning at 5 a.m., drive over to his office. We'd work out of his office the entire day to fix things, to build features that were missing. And this continued for like 4 or 5 months. And every day we were wondering, when is he going to kick down the door and tell us, like, you two pack up your shit, take your shitty ass software and get the hell out of here. But he stuck with us. And today, he's built one of the largest and most successful plumbing businesses in the country. Hopefully I think he would even tell you we played a significant role in giving him the technology to run a business at that scale. But, but it continues to be tough today. Today it's tough in a different way. We have, 10,000 plus contractors that are running really successful and profitable businesses on it. And it's like so much responsibility on your shoulders. And so every day we try and stay grounded and try and earn this partnership every day and make sure we don't do anything wrong by our customers and we don't let them down. So it's very stressful now.
Let's talk about, and I can see you're a great friend, but I do got to ask you the question of people. Probably the biggest pet peeve people have with you when you go online and scream is the product's great.
Yeah.
It's hard to get it implemented.
Yep.
And what would you say to people? Because that's probably the biggest. Mm-hmm. That's probably the biggest thing you get, right? Like when you look at your reviews, it's hard to get implemented on board. Like that's the first. What would you say? 90 to 120 days is probably the most challenging.
Yeah, certainly any kind of big change in any business is going to be hard. And especially when it comes to software, no software is perfect, ServiceTitan included. I would never claim that the software is perfect. I would hope we try and make a perfect effort to getting it right. And in cases where we don't get it right, I would hope we do everything it takes to make it right and make it right quickly. I would say, thankfully, the vast majority of our customers have seen, wild success with the product. Certainly, there are cases where, and unfortunately, even one case is one case too many. But there are cases where, for a variety of reasons, whether we don't implement the software correctly or we don't train the customer correctly or we drop the ball on service or whatever the reason might be, that we don't have a successful outcome initially. But in all those cases, we will do everything it takes to turn things around.
I gotta say this though, because I'm a straight shooter. Yeah. I called you up. I had problems. I wind up buying Titan Pro technology. I joke with you now. I say thank you. It took from 2 to 20 employees. But I also said, Ara, I don't expect you to build my company for me. I feel like sometimes when I'm in conferences or I'm talking to people, I'm like, well, did you do the onboarding? Did you make sure you had someone that could help you? Did you actually use it? Did you make sure you forced all your employees to use it? Because you got to own technology. Like you got to live. I'm going to tell you a story here real fast about us with Engage. I'm sure you heard about Engage, right? And Bill went and got Engage and Rilla. And he's like, Lance, this is going to change us. And I'm like, Bill, I trust you. Do what you want because I'm on ServiceTitan. So my top sales guy at my HVAC company did not want to use Rilla. Now it was spreading like cancer through my whole entire company, right? All my roofing companies. Yeah. Now all my top guys and mid guys like, man, I hear this buzz about Rilla. So Bill calls me up and tells me what's going on. I call my partner in HVAC business. I said, listen, this guy's gone. He's fired. He's like, he's our number one salesperson. I'm like, are you kidding? Why do I care? Like nobody will ever hold a gun to my head. I don't need the money. I'm good. Like, you don't have me by the chops here.
Yeah.
He's like, we can't fire him. I said, okay, watch. I pull up into the parking lot, and he's outside. Just coincidental, he's outside. I walk up to him, I'm not going to say his name. I'm like, hey, thank you so much, man. I appreciate everything. I was like, I'm going to miss you. I was like, you're a great guy, man. I was like, I love your wife. I love your kids. I wish you the best on your journey. He's like, what? Are you firing me? I'm like, no, I'm not firing you. You fired yourself. He's like, what? I'm like, when you go to Acme and they tell you to go work the register, but you go into the back and you start making hoagies, do you think that's going to fly? He's like, no. I said, well, when you go to the bank, if you worked at a bank and they tell you to go work the teller and you say, no, I'm going to go work the desk over there and start handing out loans, do you think you'd be fired? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, we told you how to use Rilla for being able to coach our weaker people, to make sure we're properly insured, to make sure we protect our company. And you think somewhere along the line your name's on the company here and that you own the company because you're saying you're not going to do it. And he just looked at me. And he's like, I'll do it right now on my next call.
Wow.
And it changed like that. Everyone got on board with the technology. We saw our sales skyrocket. Our average ticket went up from 15,000 to I think it's 19,000 right now. And that's where I had to do the same with ServiceTitan last summer. If you remember, you sent Abigail out for me. I'm like, Ara, listen, I'm having problems here on the roofing space. This is a funny story how he wasn't going to let roofing come in last year. I don't know if you remember this.
That's right, yeah.
So PJ Fitzpatrick was on it, and I knew they were because Geiger owns Horizon, so he got an R onto it. So I called Tom Howard up. I'm like, listen, Tom, I needed my roofing company to be on ServiceTitan because my HVAC companies were. He's like, Lance, not gonna let it happen. I'm like, Tom, you gotta approve it. Just send the email, get me approved. I said, I've seen, no offense to AccuLinks and House Call Pro, and believe me, I'm not being disrespectful. They have places everywhere, right, for someone. I said, but it's not even 1/10 of the product. Tom approves it. I wind up taking Cherry Roofing, if you remember, from $2 million to $12 million. I sold it to a private equity firm less than a year. R's like, Lance, I'm like, R, you gotta trust me. I said, I'm going all in the roofing space. I'm going to change it, and everyone's going to go on ServiceTitan. You waited about like an hour, and you called me back, and we talked for about an hour. You're like, Lance, I'm in. Yep. You're like, I just got to get the board to go in. He's like, but I'm in. I believe in you. Do you remember that conversation?
I do. You in any new segment that we serve, we want to make sure that the product will be a great fit because the last thing we want to do is disappoint customers. You really opened our eyes that ServiceTitan is indeed a great fit for roofing, and you also helped us figure out in the few areas where we need to make augmentations to the product, what those areas are. And so we've been building it, much of it already built, the rest coming very shortly. And so, number one, we realized we're a really good fit for roofing contractors. And second, it's amazing to see the level of success that roofing contractors are having, especially you and your journey is absolutely mind-boggling. And so it's made us very excited about what we're doing now with roofing contractors. I
mean, because you guys had the HVAC, I mean, you are the number one HVAC provider in the country by far. There's not even a close second.
Yeah, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, garage door, et cetera, yeah.
I believe you'll be the number one roofing contractor supporter inside of 18 months to 2 years. Yeah. Because when people actually see your product, and that's and like people say to me, like, does Ara pay you to say this stuff? Are you part of, people actually think I own part of ServiceTitan. I'm like, no, I don't get paid anything. No, I'm like, but if you look at it, because I told you this, and here's a true story, on Cherry, I was using ServiceTitan wrong, and I was still be able to scale my company from 2 to 12 million in a year because all I used was the marketing KPIs and the source code of where my revenue was coming from, and we just followed that and followed that. The rest of it didn't even work for me right. It was all set up not properly on me. Think about that. Yeah. So like that's when I knew how powerful it was, and I don't think you understand. I still don't think ServiceTitan, I'm not being disrespectful to you, sure, understands the power you guys have for roofing contractors compared to everything else that's on the market. There's not even a close second. It's just, and people are like, Lance, you have to own part of ServiceTitan. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm like, I had the same onboarding issue at first because I needed it to work. And what I will say is you send Abigail out, and I forget the other guy's name. They spent a full week with me. Do you remember?
Yep.
Helping me build out projects and understanding it, and it's all there now. I mean, that was less than a year. I mean, pretty impressive.
Indeed, and sincerely thank you for your patience and your trust in your partnership to get there. But as you said, we've now realized ServiceTitan is a fantastic fit for roofing contractors, and already, thankfully, we partner with great operators who are doing amazing things. And like I said, your journey is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is not really that hard to figure out. Like, Vertex, who's one of the biggest roofing platforms out there, is on ServiceTitan.
Yeah.
It's almost like, why would you not just follow what winners do and just do the same? Or am I missing something?
No.
No, I'm being honest. Like, that's
very simply and well said.
I mean, just follow what winners do. So let's talk about what's next. Like, let's talk about marketing. Do you care if we talk about marketing?
Let's do it.
All right. So do you believe contractors better learn how to be marketers? Because we know they have to be technology companies. I don't believe home service companies anymore are home service companies. I believe they're actually technology companies if they want to grow and scale fast. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
So let's talk about marketing. You guys have Marketing Pro, which I love. I'm a fan of it. I think you know that. I'm one of the biggest I'm a digital marketer by trade. I think you make it very seamless for the average contractor to be able to set up certain tools.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about what made you go there so quickly and heavily? Because that's a huge piece of ServiceTitan most people don't even know.
Indeed. So contracting businesses, residential contracting businesses specifically, they are amazing at the trade that they perform. In the case of HVAC, doing HVAC work. In the case of roofing, repairing and replacing roofs. But to build really successful and at scale contracting businesses, the other element you have to be great at is the sales and marketing funnel. And what Vi and I quickly realized is that residential contracting businesses actually have a very similar sales and marketing funnel that we do at ServiceTitan, and that frankly most businesses have, which is you spend a lot of time and money on marketing to generate leads, and then you have to convert as many of those leads on the phone into booked appointments, and then you have to convert as many of those booked appointments into closed deals, and at the highest average ticket possible, responsibly, of course. And so this is the standard sales and marketing funnel. And when you look at a typical residential contracting business, for example, if you generate 1,000 leads, that come in, let's say, as phone calls, and you convert 70% of those into booked appointments, so you're talking about 700 appointments now, and then you convert, for example, 40% of those into closed deals, so you're talking about what now, 280 closed deals, and let's say at a $10,000 average ticket, right? 280 at $10,000 average ticket, you're talking about 2.8 million in revenue, right? And if you have a 10% profit margin, you're talking about 280,000 in profit. Now, if in each of those steps in the funnel, you just drive like a 10% improvement, right? From the same 1,000 leads. First of all, let's say you do a little bit better marketing. So instead of 1,000 leads, you're generating 1,100 leads, 10% more. Instead of booking at 70%, you book at 80%. So now you're generating roughly 880 booked appointments. Instead of 40% close rate, you have 50% close rate. You're now generating 440 closed deals. Instead of 10,000 average ticket, you do, a 15,000 average ticket. You're now generating over 6.5 million in revenue. And if you can automate some of the back office stuff, so instead of 10% profit margin, you have 12% profit margin, you're now generating 750,000 in profit compared to 200,000, right? You've more than 3x'd your take-home profit, all by having a 10% improvement in each one of these stages in the funnel. So that slight 10% improvement compounds into 3 times the profit. Like, that is life-changing for a contractor. And now in your case, you get more than 10% improvement. You'll double the leads and you'll improve the call booking rate by 20%. You're gonna do more than that. But it's a sales and marketing funnel. And that's why ServiceTitan, the software, focuses so much on, number one, giving you complete and automatic instrumentation of this funnel, so you can see exactly how many leads came, what percentage are booked into appointments, what the close rate is, what the average ticket is, but then also give you the tooling to improve each one of these things. Like Marketing Pro will do email marketing automation for you automatically, so you can generate more leads. Our Ads Optimizer product, right? If you're spending a lot of money on Google Ads, Ads Optimizer will automatically figure out which ads are generating the most profitable leads for you and stop wasting money on less profitable ads and shift your marketing budget to the most profitable campaigns so you generate more leads and more profitable ones. All of our call center features, we'll give you call recordings on how the CSRs are booking. It'll track their booking rates. It'll give them tools to review their call recordings and learn how to book more calls, and so your call booking rates go up. And same on the technician side with all these good, better, best options so they can increase their close rates and their average tickets and the integrated financing, all this stuff. So like, we're not in the game of, selling fancy software or shiny technology. We're in the game of, can we make a demonstrable difference in your financial outcome? That's it.
Thanks for watching. Part 2 of this episode is up next. But before you do that, punch that like and subscribe button. Let's effing grow, people. Time to build and sell your company. Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today. I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, ServiceTitan and Rilla, our technology of choice to helping us scale and grow our business and making sure all of our viewers have the technology to scale their business so when they want to sell it, they're able to. That's a wrap for today's show. We hope you loved it. We hope you got some actionable takeaways that you can implement into your business to start making it more profitable tomorrow and help you grow. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Look forward to giving you more information to help you grow your business today.